So anyway, all this stuff in the atmosphere does create a space where, as you see, if you're a talent, you just feel isolated, you're uncertain, you don't know what the future holds, you can't plan
There's
for
no
anything.
point to doing
Should I
it.
put my rate down? Like, it basically, the problem is they know if we all got together, there's more of us than them. It's sort of like that movie Ants, if you remember Uber.
Apes strong.
There you go, more than the grasshoppers. If the ants got together, you see, it started related in there, you know, so whatever.
I mean, I think where this goes too is like, this is why you see people, even if they end up coming back like Moses did in CS, right? It's like people are very intentionally leaving. Like, and CS is definitely one of the better scenes in terms of payment. Like, CS casters can make more money than any other casters in the English language in the world. Now, before it was kind of brutal because you'd be traveling like 250 days of the year. Like, not everybody wants to or can do that. But in general, the competition between TOs did make for a healthier environment overall. And you see people, you know, Jat left League of Legends. We've seen tons of people leave League of Legends. Papa Smithy went to GM 100 Thieves.
He literally tweeted that he thought casting was a dead profession.
He does think that, by the way. He actually really does believe that if you talk to him. Like, and that's one of the reasons why he wanted to leave. But, you know, and also it's not only just a financial cap on this when you're dealing with a monopoly, there's also just a career cap. Like, if you say like, well, I want to start making this kind of content or like do some more fun stuff and try and be a producer, oftentimes they won't let you do that. I mean, that was definitely true.
Creativity, right?
Like at LEC, they actually empower casters, which is a great thing, which is one of the reasons why they have such good content, probably the best shoulder content of anybody in the world right now, right? And, you know, Duncan, you and I did that with Flashpoint, where, you know, we empowered the casters. That's why Flashpoint 2 had all those fucking great skits, and we had the cool hype videos and everything like that. You know, I was producing those hype videos, right? And, you know, there is value to that. I was helping produce, you know, Rainbow Six shoots last week in Vegas for the new NAL season because they like how I interact with the players, and they like the material I can get out of the players in those circumstances because they just respond better to me. Because I kind of speak their language, right? And I know how to make them comfortable. And like,
you're making them sound like some sort of tribe of fucking like pygmies.
I mean, they are. They're pro
players. Even speak their language. Look, shoot, shoot, bang, bang, bing, bing. You are. See?
They are like that. We all know pro players are actually like that.
It's not true. Yeah,
they are primitives. Okay, so, but you know, it's these kind of things, and that's why LEC is so good. But for a lot of people, the career development simply just ends, and they just want you to trot you out. You scream into mics now, and you're like, "Can I help out in some other way?" A lot of casters are very motivated.
By the way, I even think there's a segue here, which is this is also why short-term thinking kills you. Because I'll tell you what happened to ESL in particular. Here's why ESL didn't do excellent shoulder content and skits like we're talking until Flashpoint did it. Because since the casters became institutionalized into how this works, of how you're hired and you're on the rate and you're battling this guy and the rate doesn't go up, and then we're haggling over every detail. They're even haggling over how much you travel days and should you have a travel day and you can have the rehearsal off. Because they became like that themselves, they then thought of, unsurprisingly, didn't give any extra leeway to the TO. Like, they're not just going to come in for free and do it. You better pay me to do that shoulder content. But the problem is the TO doesn't see the value in it, and you get to this stalemate where actually, essentially, both parties want it. They want the shoulder content and awesome, like, fucking skits and funny things that engage with the community. The talent want to do it, but the talent have been treated like they've been nickel and dimed so much. They're like, well, I'm not just doing it for nothing. Whereas instead, if you actually have, like, a real cooperation, you have a longer-term deal with someone, you have them on a set amount for over the whole year, you include extra amounts for things like this. Now you can unlock people's creativity. Because, by the way, people like, if it's Overwatch League, someone like Uber, MonTV's on something, these guys want to do it. They want to create awesome extra shit. They want it to be a better product.
And you know, the irony,
to be the best.
The irony is you could just hire fewer producers as a result, because the talent will just do it.
Well, you know, I'll also add, and I made this point in the article I wrote about it. Again, it comes down to a Riot philosophical view that I don't think they want people who aren't under their direct control or influence to be the ones essentially telling the story or crafting the history of their games, of their teams. You know, because the problem with that is you might let some truth slip into it. And we all know how adverse to that Riot are, you know, like if you, for example, if you fucking, you know, let's just say there was a situation where like TSM, for example. TSM is such an important part of the League of Legends ecosystem. You're not going to be able to tell a fucking story as part of an official Riot broadcast that includes all of the fuckery or bullshit that's gone on behind the scenes. Absolutely not. You're not going to be able to do that. What you're going to have to do is do this very whitewashed version of what happened. TSM had difficulties internally, but the team galvanized and rallied and all this shit. And it's like, it doesn't bear any, it's not reality. And they don't want that. They don't want people coming in producing content that's authentic. Everyone uses the authentic and credibility buzzwords in esports, but when it actually comes to enacting that, and it shows the downside to our very broken, corrupt, and shitty industry, then people are really like, whoa, this might drive a sponsor away. But it's the reality of what happened, so it doesn't matter. So they don't want people telling the stories they think that only they themselves should be allowed to tell.
Yeah, I mean, they're very nervous about losing control of the narrative at any point, I think. And this actually happened. You see this in a fair bit of their content. I don't like. I think Riot prefer to let their universe do the talking than let like their talent do the talking. Like you don't see voiced over recaps. Like you don't see their voices appearing in the game or anything like that. Like they're not interested in that at all. And I think that's going to be the same for all of their products. They really would rather leverage their universe, I think, as much as they possibly can. So
I mean, that's they put KDA music videos in front of the most important League of Legends game of the year instead of actually telling the story of the teams and how they got there.
Yes.
It's why in some ways I think it's actually genius that they made Valorant have the MOBA elements, because the problem they would have had in CSGO is it's about the players, because every fucking character in the game is identical. Whereas in their game now, they get to do exactly what they do in League. It ain't about the fact that it's like this player. It's the Sova, though. It's all about the agent and the character. Like they always try to make it that the game is more important, even though everyone must understand this principle, if I put it in sporting terms. Which is more important to the amazing Barcelona-Real Madrid match? The football and the nets and the pitch, or fucking like Lionel Messi and Ronaldo? We all know the answer to that one, but the joke in League of Legends and Valorant is they think there's a debate. They think the debate is maybe you aren't watching because it's fucking Scream. You're watching because it's Jet. It's like, it's the other way around, you idiot, if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean, that's why it was so interesting to work with OGN, because like OGN definitely got that because they had 20 years of experience in StarCraft with no help from Blizzard about star building players and making sure that the players' faces were always obvious, that the players were the superstars, that the casters were also the superstars in a lot of situations, right? I mean, you can tell they've had very long-term deals with most of the casters on the Korean side of things, decades. In certain cases across games.
Yes.
Like
they actually did the opposite.
They value Caster Jun so much that he was now he works for Riot, right, on a contract, but he basically cast 20 years at almost 20 years, 15, 20 years at OGN, right? There was that stability, and I think that can bridge us into this next, the next topic, which is that a lot of the reason people are leaving is because this scene lacks stability, even in the best possible cases. Like, you're lucky to get a 2-year deal. And,
By the way, I've got an aside I want to add in here as well, because as someone who now, I know barely anything about Valorant. I don't pretend to watch the game. It was never a game I was interested in. I'm doing a show, though, because specifically, like I've done in the past case, I wanted to try and actually help platform someone else's work. And spoiler, if they're good, you get to learn the game through talking to them. It's like a way to sort of boost your skills up. It's perfect. If you
who's Valoranting? Yep.
There you go. So, it's basically a free way to get trained on the job. But they think that you're helping them out. It's perfect. Right? So,
Riot.
Exploiting them. Yeah, exactly. I know. All right, Mark Merrill. They should be thankful to be on my show.
It was me all along.
Basically, the point I was going to make was this, though. I also think Valorant is one of the least appropriate games to be putting talent in this position. Because if you are anyone except the host, I tell you right now, Valorant is a full-time game. You cannot do it on the side. It has way more. It has the information burden of League of Legends, and then you have to know all the teams and players like CSGO simultaneously, and this is the craziest part I don't think people understand, then it has all the maps as well, so the amount of permutations and things are insane. This isn't like Overwatch. I'd played Overwatch a bit. I used to watch it for fun because Monty worked in the league. I could just watch that casually and I could talk like I knew 80% of the game. In Valorant, you can't just be doing it for 1 month, which means, by the way, you had to have spent the last 1.5 years working on it to be good good for this month and then go, oh, I'm not getting the gig in the next 2 months. Fuck, well, I mean, it's like we said about the day rate thing. It's like there's nothing else I can go and do that justifies the 2 years of working on the game I just did. It's not like I have another game like this I can just switch over to. If I go and do PUBG or something, it's a totally different game. I have to have my own skill set built up there. So it's also, like we say, if they're the only game in town, like, you're essentially just playing God with people's careers in like an unnecessary manner in this case. Because like this is why, to bring it back to Sean Gers and DDK, I've no doubt that they are jaded. They put 2 years of their life into this game, and it's not that they're not number one. They're not even fucking hired.
They're not even invited.
They're not even hired, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and this game is so Valorant is unique in that it's actually a color caster's opportunity to really just take over the show, because the flow of information is one of the most important parts of this game, and it's never talked about. And it's not apparent. It's based on assumptions and how people.
Well, it's also a bunch of the scouting and shit happens off camera, and like you have to know like where the cipher cams are, where the Sova arrows are, and like so it's problematic, and I think probably is not amazing for viewership, because CS:GO is much more obvious about what's going on with like flashbangs and smokes and utility and everything like that. Yeah. But it is very you are basically keeping a checklist in your head in Valorant about who sees what at any given time, or who could have seen what,
or what's being implied by someone.
Sean was very good.
They both are. Dan's basically a color caster. He is one of the most color leaning play-by-play commentators ever. That's why he worked with Bardolph while he's screeching, "Let's blow the roof off this bitch." You know, Dan is fucking there like explaining shit. Like those guys could both be. I'm telling you, if Dan ever comes back to Valorant, I'm taking him. He's giving me my color caster quite happily. But what's so mental about this is that this whole discussion about the ceiling or the difficulty in transitioning out of a caster position, or the difficulty in just getting some more ownership and stake in the product. And you're so often kept at arm's length when you as a caster want to do that. I've seen it everywhere. I see it in Overwatch and Valorant and everything like that. And it causes this situation where, this is why I tweeted this, guys. It's like, it's weird that like people do casting, but it's never the end goal. Like it's always just, it's people always thinking about what they doing, like transitioning into some fucking pen pushing role off screen or whatever. So if you actually just really like casting, you're fucked, mate, because it's just a halfway house on the way to a quote unquote real job. And it's not even a money issue. I mean, the money could be better for sure, but it's the stability is the biggest fucking problem. Yes. I have a kid. Sean has 2 kids. Like,
I have a kid.
Yeah, exactly. Like, sorry.
Which is interesting. I just saw you referred to as an incel the other day, Monty, in the comment section on our last episode of this. So go check out that fucking psycho comment.
Unlucky, really. But yeah, like, so it's we don't have the time to play Bush League or play these fucking games. But then when like, okay, some casters don't want to cast.
And by the way, Mitch, hold on. We're not making unreasonable demands. We just want a middle class lifestyle where we can cast and then have kids with some level of stability. It's a pretty fucking
These
normal
fuckers want me to stay in California. They're not letting me, like, when I do the Overwatch League, they say you kind of need to be in California, right? Especially in the first couple of seasons. So okay, fair enough. I mean, poverty lines are 80 grand a year here, so let's just fucking start right there. And I tell you, they had troubles offering casters that in recency, right? Sure. Like, I don't need to be fucking rich. I don't need to drive a Bugatti. I just what the fuck? I just need the off-camera hours to be compensated to the same degree as or at least to some degree. And that's why Matt, Mr. X, Matt Morello, is now working on the product side of Overwatch League. He's like, I don't know, like associate director of Overwatch League product or something like that. Because maybe he doesn't have aspirations of casting in the longer term. But I'm only 30. I wouldn't mind casting for a few more years. But there's a world where like I might have to take some pen pushing job, and like my talent is working in talent development. So I'd be one of those people that would be able to empower talent and be able to tell people like Blizzard to pay them more. The problem is that I'd have to stop casting because I'm on record so often about being like, you can't be choosing talent and you can't be selecting and vetting them and also casting. This is a conflict of interest.
But in Overwatch League, it's important to note that you can be doing those things if you're dating a caster. That was perfectly acceptable.
I mean, yeah, and that conflict of,
process of elimination, fans.
Massive conflict of interest.
On a postcard.
And that was a big problem, right? To be fair, not an issue right now, but the effects of that are persistent. So I want to point that out, and it was a huge problem. For example, to be clear, I was dating a producer. First thing I did was go to the bosses and go, this is happening. Like, do we need to change roles here? Does something need to happen? You know what I mean? Like, we sort of had to make that clear. She didn't make any actually doesn't make any decisions about whether I cast or not. But all I'm saying is that like, I don't want as a caster to have to be forced to take a pen pushing job and then to lift other people up when I'm not done. I'm not fucking done yet. But people like Dan and Sean weren't done either. They just didn't have a fucking choice.
And think about this, guys. Like, think about what you lose, because now we're in a world where, you know, Counter-Strike Esports has been going strong for 20 years. If we lose a Counter-Strike caster because they're being asked to, they just can't make a living, basically, and like have a family and like even a somewhat normal lifestyle, right? Then we just lose history. Like, you know, when I left Korean League of Legends, even though many people, you know, Papa Smithy is a great caster, knew all of the, you know, all the history, there's still a difference between being there day in and day out and casting those games. And you lose something when somebody leaves one of those positions, especially casters who have been there for a very long time. And if all signs are pointing to another 20 years of CS, guys, doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. It's basically like the perfect game. And if we force people out of CS, we just lose competitive history, and we lose the interest of the game, and we lose the legacy of the game.
I'll add,
fucking depressing.
Yeah, I'll add to this, though. I mean, it's not just developers and sort of economic realities that contribute to this. Of course, as everything in esports, the fans. It's always, you've always got to get a dig in at the fans, because they are their own worst enemies. And what I find in a lot of esports scenes is it's very trend heavy. It's very popularity based. Like, you know, if I have to, you know, so for example, you know, Semler, people like, you commentate so much and people hear your voice so much, because it's not like a sports model where you are exclusive to one broadcast and you will do like one game a week maximum during a season. You know, it's like you do fucking 10 games a fucking
it's like you do a decade in a year, isn't it, of sports?
Yeah, exactly. And then people start noticing your like linguistic crutches or quirks or phraseologies or anecdotes you tell, you know, because obviously you've got to cater to a potential new broadcaster, a new viewer rather, on the broadcast, but like someone's heard it before, and so obviously like they just turn on you immediately, and they did that with Semler. Essentially drove him out of the scene. He goes to Overwatch, and then people start going, bloody hell, I miss Semler. Shame he went to Overwatch. He comes back, and then they go, look at this traitor slithering back from Overwatch. Fuck him. Yeah, he's only here for the money. It's like, motherfuckers, you cannot win. And so the problem you've got is, like, it's why I always say it's a young person's game, because you have to be up on sort of all of the, like, stupid social media, Zoomer fucking trends, and you have to pander to that audience, and you don't get to reach the point a lot of the great sports commentators do, where you have gravitas and you get to age gracefully and all that stuff. Basically, as soon as you get grey hair in your beard, you got to get the fuck off camera. You know, it's like that's about where we're at as an industry. It's just not very mature, and the fan base isn't very mature. Plus, we have a huge churn of fans in general. There are some people who won't even know. Like, for example, they watch League of Legends, Monty. They'll never know you casted it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's fucking mental. So there is an inherent problem in the maturity levels on the industry because of, you know, what the product is.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.